Hey, back-to-back uploads, folks. So that's why I'm wearing the same crap, because I told y'all on Twitter, which if you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, Innocent V Reviews. Come on, bro. Like, why were you not following me on Twitter? Like, what's going on here? Come on now. Do it. Do it. And subscribe. But anyway, I mentioned on Twitter like a few weeks ago when I saw the movie that I was going to do a review for the Amazon Prime movie starring Kiernan Shipka and Olivia Holt. Totally killer. And is a combination of me going to Comic-Con and then getting sick and then being lazy and procrastinating because Spider-Man 2 came out and I was playing that a lot. But anyway, I did see the movie and I actually had a great time with it. Once again, it is another horror movie that isn't really scary. It's more just like a fun slasher comedy, kind of like Scream, I would say. Not as good as Scream, but it's kind of got that same vibe. I think Kiernan Shipka was pretty good in the movie. The only thing that probably bothered me about it is that she's not a teenager anymore, which usually this isn't something that bothers me because I know a lot of people have an issue when people are miscast with age for a role that they're clearly not in. And it usually doesn't bother me because I usually don't see it. But the problem here specifically is that I watched The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. In that show, Kiernan Shipka was a teenager. But now, she clearly isn't the same age and doesn't look the same way that she did when she was in that show. So now, because I have a frame of reference of what she used to look like in the age range that she's supposed to be in this movie and what she currently looks like, I'm like, oh, I understand why people complain about this now because I can see it. But it's not a huge negative. But anyway, enough of that rambling aside. What's this movie about? Why am I talking about it? Why should you watch it? Well, I'll tell you. Totally Killer is a slasher comedy that is currently on Amazon Prime. The premise of the movie is that Kiernan Shipka's mother is the survivor of a serial killer's rampage back in, I think it was 87. So this killer came around and murdered all of her friends and left a note in her locker saying that she was going to be next, but never showed up. He never came after her and never killed her. So she kind of just lived her life in fear and continued going on. And now she has this hyperfixation on her daughter, Jamie, played by Kiernan Shipka, who is just like, God, Mom, you're being annoying. Like, no one's coming after you or us. I'm just trying to go out on Halloween and hang out with my friends. And surprisingly enough, when her and her dad end up going out that night, the killer returns and murders her mother. And this is where the movie gets weird because time travel is introduced. So Kiernan Shipka's friend built a time machine, and Kiernan Shipka, after an altercation with the serial killer, ends up traveling back in time to I think it's 87, it might be 86, so bear with me if I'm off by like a year or two. She travels back there and decides that she's going to help prevent the killer from killing her mom's friends, and that way her mom will be a paranoid person like she is in the future. But obviously, because it's also a comedy, things don't exactly go the way she wants them to. And I think this movie was excellent on the comedy. The kills in the movie kind of aren't that crazy because it's just a dude with like a knife. And like, I think Scream makes it work really well with how brutal it is, but this movie just wasn't really about the kills. So it just didn't land nearly as well as I wanted it to, which is fine, But the comedy aspect of this movie is absolutely stellar because it does generational comedy. It makes fun of people in 2023, mainly teenagers, and it makes fun of like societal systems and teenagers in the 80s. And there is a very narrow balancing act that you need to do when doing comedy like this because it can very much come off as someone being like, oh, bro, things were so good back then, or like things are so good now, and look how terrible they were back then, or look how terrible they are now because of blah, 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 blah. And it can come off as, very like territorialist, I guess, where you're trying to rep the generation that you agree with the most. So you're just dogging on the other one while boasting the one that you liked. So they really had to do a good job with explaining why both are bad in their own respective ways and why both have good elements in their own respective ways. And I think this movie did an absolutely fantastic job with doing that because, like I said, very thin tightrope you're walking on when doing that. And I think it was absolutely perfect. You know, they made jokes about how like teenagers nowadays have too many not rights, but more people care more about teenagers' opinions nowadays, and it's kind of like overindulgent. And then it juxtaposes it with in the 80s, no one gave a damn what you cared about, regardless of they should have. And they show them to like the extremes on both ends, which made it very, very funny in my opinion. I loved all the comedy in there. Probably my favorite joke in the movie is when like Kiernan Shipka goes into a school to sneak in to find her mother as a teenager, and the woman at the help desk just couldn't give any less of a shit. And then she's like, wow, it's weird that no one cares about like security protocol. And then she tries to change her schedule because she doesn't want to go to gym because she doesn't like sweating. And then she just goes like, bitch, if you don't go to fucking gym, I'll kill you. And it's just, she doesn't say that, but like that's kind of the attitude she gave towards her. And I found it absolutely hilarious because, yeah, that's just how both generations operate on different spectrums. And it was just a good observation of it. I will say something that did surprise me about the movie is the way the time travel in it was implemented. Because honestly, that's what hooked me into the movie. I was like, okay, there's another slasher comedy, but it's kind of like Back to the Future. Interesting. Is that I thought the time travel was going to be some weird supernatural thing because they don't really explain it very well in the trailers or advertisements for the movie. It's mainly just like, you know, there's time travel. She goes back to the 80s. But then when I saw the movie and it's like, no, her friend built a time machine and they played it straight, I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. Like, they're just building a time machine. Okay. Sure. I'll roll with the punches. This is what we're doing. I didn't know it was gonna be this way. I thought it was gonna be like some weird, you know, witchy supernatural nonsense, but nah. Time machines. They're here. They're built. We're using it. All right, bet. And also Olivia Holt was really good in the movie. I found her very funny. Yeah, that's really about it. Totally Killer. Simple, short movie. It's on Amazon Prime right now if you want to check it out. I found it really funny. I highly recommend it. It's a fun little short Halloween slasher comedy watch for you. And yeah, I think that's really all about I have to say. So, I am the Innocent Villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent proven villainous. And if you've seen Totally Killer, please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below, or if maybe my rambles have convinced you to go and check it out. So, have a great day. Peace.